I just wanted to I know we've done like family ministry meetings and they're on nights that are hard for you guys to get here and stuff, so I wanted to get us all in a room together, kind of just talk about the health of you guys in your life, because that's what I'm here for, is to care for you guys as pastor, as well as, you know, the health of the ministry, and then the direction of Rock Youth in the coming months. So as we head into summer, we can make our plans, and heading, you know, like summer camp and different things like that. So I just wanted to open and start. Let's start in prayer, and then I'll read a passage. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for the calling that you've put on our lives to preach the gospel to the world, especially the teenagers. I pray that you would anoint this time together. You'd give us the words to speak around your word and understand and communicate to each other, to understand what you're doing in the lives of teenagers, Lord. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, and if you have a Bible, you want to turn with me, John 21. Think about, okay, this is Peter, and Peter has been denied Christ, and Jesus has now come to him, and he asks him these questions. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter. Simon said to John, "Do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter. "You know I love you." "Then feed my sheep," or feed my lambs, this verse says. "Feed my sheep," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you. Then take care of my sheep." Jesus said a third time, and he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." That is the heart of ministry. That not only ministry, that is the heart of our relationship with Christ, is that we feed his sheep. And so no matter where we're at, I think there are three different priorities, three different phases of that. First is that of ourselves and our relationship with God. And so I want you guys to ask yourself that, because we're going to start. I want to start talking about, you know, your own personal health, and when I say that, spiritual health. So are you feeding God's sheep? Are you feeding yourself in the Word of God, in prayer, in fasting, in seeking God's Word? And only you can answer that. The second area is then second priority. So there goes you and your relationship with God. The second is with your family. So for some of you younger people, that might be your parents or your brothers or sisters, because you live in at home. You might be on your own, and there is not that family aspect that you have to necessarily worry about right now, which is a different dynamic. It might be your spouse, and it might be your kids. And thinking about, are you feeding the sheep that God has directly put you in charge of and responsible about? And then the third area is then the ministry, Rock Youth. Or if you happen to be in other ministries, men's ministry, women's ministry, mission trips, different areas that you may or may not serve, okay? But asking that question in health of the ministry. And so, I have this wonderful little sheet, because I like to have you guys fill out things. That's what pens are for. I'd like you guys to take a minute, fill out the top part before commitment at the bottom. The reason I want to do this is this is the area I've lacked in as a whole in the ministry, is more my care for you guys and support and leading and teaching, especially in the last little over a year of ministry, just because of the transitional shifts that have happened in the kids ministry, and my role has shifted from just youth pastor to this family pastor role, and it's become, you know, a heavy weight to carry. And so with that, I've lacked here, and I want to be there for you guys to help you the best I can. And so with that, you know, a ministry or anything rises and falls on the leadership. And so the areas I've seen through the last year, a decline, I think, in the health of Rock Youth specifically. And I would relate that most to myself because of my inability to focus my time on Rock Youth and develop it like I had in the years previous. And so part of this is I want to see that come back. I'll give you some examples of this. So Wednesday nights, last year's average, so that'd be, 2017, last school year system. We were averaging 95 students on Wednesday night. We got as high as like 110, 115, but we averaged 95 for the year. This year we've averaged 85, so we've lost an average of 10 kids. And I only say the numbers not about numbers, but about literally souls walked out the back door that we haven't noticed. As well as kids have come in, visitors have come in and gone out and things like that. And that hurts. It hurts to see happen. And so I want to see the retention, not for numbers' sake, but for kids being able to know who Christ is. That gets exasperated if I look back at the last 3 months specifically. I said 95 last year, 85 is the average this year. In the last 3 months, which is since winter camp, we've averaged 72, which is a huge dramatic difference. And so you're looking at, we've lost 20 kids, we've lost, was that 20%, right? Ish. Yeah, 20% loss at any company would mean I'd get fired. And so it hurts not because we've lost numbers, but because we've lost kids out the back door that we're not going after with the gospel. And so what do we do about that? Because that's what scares me. We've also seen with that events, whether the kids got the vision of it or not, like dodgeball, didn't go over, didn't happen. Why? Because there wasn't kids involved. Why did that happen? We'll get there in a second. But then we had events, winter retreat, our record number of kids ever at winter retreat. Most kids we've ever had go to winter or summer camp ever. Deal or no deal, 2 weeks after winter retreat was awesome. We had over 100 kids there, plus a ton of leaders. And so trying to think through, okay, losing these kids out the back door, what's the problem? I think the problem is care. Care from me, care from you guys, care from whether I've demonstrated it poorly to you or not, I don't know, but just caring for the teenagers and them being valued. I know their lives get busy, but kids will go after what they value. And if this were something they valued being at, they'd be here. And if they don't, then they won't. And so how do we shift and change that? Again, we'll talk about it in a second. Alongside of that, probably because you guys are following me and I've been giving a poor example, but I've also seen a low attendance rate from you guys when it comes to things outside of Wednesday night. And so I don't know if that's, miscommunicated expectations that I haven't given you guys or you guys haven't given me or whatever it is, but whether it's an event like dodgeball or deal or no deal or the hayride or those kind of things, or it's the quarterly trainings. That's why we ended up doing this on a Wednesday night. The last 2 quarterly trainings that we've done, the family ministry trainings, one of them we had 5 and one of them we had 7 of you guys there. And so I thought, most of you guys are here on a Wednesday night and grab you. But I think those things directly relate to the student care, because in these things, in these meetings is when I want to share my heart, share my passion, share the direction and what's happening in the ministry, which is really what I want to talk about. How committed are you guys? So that's my question on the next question. I want you guys to look at the 3 options. How committed are you guys to the ministry? And while you're looking at it, let me explain. I don't have a beef with anybody if you're out of Rock Youth Ministry. Not a problem. My thing is I care about these teenagers. I care about their families. I care about their parents. And I want to see the ministry grow. Not about numbers. I want to see lost kids come to know Jesus. I want to see saved kids become disciplers and go out and invite their lost friends and disciple them to know Jesus and have multiply ourselves. That's what we're supposed to do. Feed my sheep. I want to see that happen. And we've seen it happen in the past, and it's dwindled in the last year. And so what it takes is commitment. Commitment from you guys, commitment from me, to give time. That's why I ask about your health. If your personal relationship with Jesus isn't where it's at, if your relationship with your family is not where it's at, then you probably shouldn't be serving in Rock Youth, realistically, or at the church as a whole, because that's your last priority. If that's getting bumped up before your relationship with God or your relationship with your family, then you need to reevaluate your commitment not only to Rock Youth but to a church in general until those things are right. Correct those things. That's why I'm talking about this really has to do with the health of us, individually down to the ministry. But the commitment aspect of a leader, okay? So we'll talk about this one. Commitment aspect of a leader. This is a person that maybe you. This is a person who is about teenagers. You're about spending time with them, about digging in their life, about texting them and calling them, finding out what's going on, hanging out with them on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings, and inviting them to events like the dodgeball and the Deal or No Deal and the hayride and summer camp and winter camp. Like, you're intentionally going after teenagers. Like, that is your heart and passion. And I know that's not everybody, and that's okay. I don't, have a problem with that. But that is what I consider what would be a leader role.
And not just a passion, but you have time to, I would add to that, like time to be in their lives throughout the week.
Right. Your personal assessment is my life is in an okay place and I can serve in ministry. And then, this is where you want to be. We wrote there, invest in youth as your primary or even sole ministry focus. I know a lot of us are like spread out. That's why I asked the question, are you overcommitted or spread too thin? I don't know if that's anybody, but if that's a possibility, that's why I'm asking that about ministry, is maybe you need to focus your efforts. Not so Rock Youth can grow, but so the gospel of Jesus Christ can go into the world. And so, as a leader, that'd be something I would expect. Committed to Wednesday nights, quarterly events, weekly communication with students, and I'll even say like weekly communication, like I guess for both this and assistant, like, if I'm either texting or emailing you guys, like being on top of it so I know what's going on. That's kind of what this whole thing is that you guys see here. There is an animal growing here, which is my heart and passion to see explode. But this takes a lot. And I know it's like chicken scratch and whatever, you can come up and look at it. But from my family ministry, there's Rock Youth, there's biblical parenting, there's elementary, and there's early childhood right now. And I'd like to see this grow. But then under each area, there's so many things that exist that have to be done and have to be carried in order for the ministry to go forward. And right now, a lot of that is, for you guys, is right here. This little bubble, tiny little thing, and then the occasional event and camp. That's where a lot of you guys fall. And that's not a bad thing, but they're trying to see, like, there's a lot going on here. And I want to see, right now, this wing is not doing so well, and it's kind of dissipating, and I don't want to see that happen. I want to see them all support each other and grow. And so with that investment, wherever you're at, and if it's not in here, if it's, the Rock Church, and this is a little wing of the Rock Church, are you there? Be all in there. So the invested in the gospel and discipleship of individual level of teenagers. What that means is digging the lives of teens. You're passionate about them. So you see something in them, talking about them. That's why we have you guys in small groups on Wednesday night, is really to develop relationships so it's what's going on in their lives, and you can check on them, you can pray with them. And I see a lot of you guys doing that. But I'm just communicating my expectation of what that is. And then must attend quarterly trainings. What we're going to do in this coming year is we're going to have 2 family trainings, and then the opposite 2 are going to be ministry specific. So right now it's happening. The Rock Youth ministry specific. Couple weeks, Kids Rock is going to have, or elementary is going to have theirs, and early childhood is going to have theirs. You got to be at these things. And the reason is because I want to check on your health. I want to check on the health of the ministry. I want to give teaching and direction. And yes, there's going to be things like the Huntoons couldn't be here, Tafoyas couldn't be here because of work and travel and different things going on. Totally get those things. If you can't be on the things, days are scheduled, but do the best you can to be there. And then if you can't be there, that's why that camera's in the back. I'm gonna film it. I'm gonna upload it. Watch it. Stay up to date with what is going on in that case. On the other side is the person assistant. You're available on Wednesday nights. I don't know if that's you, but that's the basic understanding of like, this is all I can commit, and if that's it, that's fine. I get it. I get it. Life's busy. I get it. Maybe your family and your personal relationship with God need to be better, and right now that's all you can commit, and maybe later you can change. Either way, that's fine. Just let me know that, so that neither one of us is frustrated. And then the last way is called away. You know, you are called to feed his sheep. Maybe right now you need to step back. You take a break. Or you need to refocus your efforts in other ministries that God has you in. That's fine too. I just want to get where we're all healthy, so that the ministry as a whole can continue to grow. And then if you look at this, or you see other things that the ministry is doing, that you're like, hey, I have an interest or a passion or a desire to help out in that area, I'd love to see you, step up and carry, because right now, like, this is like my responsibility, but this is only even a glimpse of it, because this is like the family ministry, but then there's all my pastoral roles, which, what did you list earlier? The different things that...
Huh?
What are those other things I said?
That you do?
Yeah. That.
Oh, that are on there?
Yeah.
Things like counseling and, I don't know, you do all
marriages,
that.
weddings, funerals.
All right. Hospital visits.
Yeah.
Family
Well, I
visits.
have those in here for Rock Youth, but there's a lot I have to do that are other things too. With the structure of the church, I'm one of the elders within the church, and so there's like meetings with that, the Box Initiative and things going on there. There's a lot going on that's not even just the family ministry. And I'm not I'm not trying to say this to say poor me and cry for me or anything like that. Don't do that. This is what God has called me to, and I'm passionate. But I have been lacking on supporting you guys and praying with you guys and lifting you guys up and providing you with the training you need. And so that's what this is about. I just want to make sure that you guys understand what my heart for these teenagers is. And so when we go into summer camp, when we go into 2018, or spring of fall of 2018, how we pair you guys up as leaders is going to be directly related to whether you want to be a leader or an assistant. Because if we stick to assistants that are only there on Wednesday nights, that group's going to die. Because you're not very committed, which is okay. But if I put two very uncommitted people to a group, you're just going to show up, talk for a few minutes with kids, and then walk out the door, and those kids are not going to get cared for. They're not going to get prayed with. They're not going to get hospital visits. They're not going to, you're not going to know what's going on in your life. And so I want to make sure as we balance people at summer camp and then also into the fall, that we really have people that are like a leader and an assistant together serving. So that's my heart here. Anything else that I missed? Do you guys have any questions?
Have you got any feedback from kids or parents that, negative or positive, I guess?
What do you mean by
Just
that?
as far as youth group in general, like Wednesday night.
Some of the parent negative that I get is it's hard to get in, like for the kids that aren't a part of the clique or the group or whatever,
On the outside looking in or something.
Right. Which I think that's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can ever. You can do things to try
Right.
and better that as a leader, and try and include. You see a new kid, try and include them.
Right.
Always asking them, bringing them into the conversation, stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that. I get a chance to talk to a lot of parents of youth kids because they're volunteers in elementary.
Okay.
And it's very much, my kid went, but they don't really have friends, or they had friends that can't go now because of sports, and they're not connected to like the ministry as a whole. And so I think what we see is when a small group can do like their small group specific events, they build those relationships with each other, with who's there, so that they're not dependent on just like one person who maybe can or cannot go. I know a number of kids that they call each other, and if the other's not going, they're not going.
So, kind of what I'm looking at is like you got a Jared Buswell, he's a strong kid, knows the Lord, trying to serve Christ, but then also has commitments in school with video, commitments with soccer, different things like that. So he can't necessarily be here on a Wednesday night. A situation like that is like knowing like, hey, how's your soccer game going? Or I know you couldn't be there Wednesday night because you're at practice, but we missed you. Like that kind of stuff says so much in saying so little to the kid. Just showing that they were missed, you know. And so that's the kind of care that I'd like to see grow up into that role. And so some of the directions that I see, I just wanted to like put this out there. Again, we have evangelism and discipleship. Those are really the two driving forces in a church. And so the direction of evangelism that I want to see is that the gospel is preached to kids who don't know it. The biggest way to do that is really having kids that are here, Jesus followers, bringing their friends, bringing their family, connecting people that they know out in the world that need Jesus. And so when we do an event like Dodgeball, as leaders, I want to encourage them to rise up and do that. I think that is our role in encouraging the evangelism, because we ourselves are not going into the schools right now, but they are every day. And so the best we can, encouraging that kind of involvement in evangelism. And then the discipleship. I want to develop students' relationships. So they kind of work hand in hand because that's the same thing. Like we want to be pushing kids' relationship with Jesus, and one of those areas is evangelism. And so pushing them in those ways. Personal discipleship with leaders as students. Work through their challenging life of being a Christian in a pagan world. And so like you guys, I know Steve, you talk to me and ask questions a lot. Through text message or whatever, like you got these kids that are really like, I'm a Christian, but it's hard, and blah, blah, blah. You know, like doing that with the kids. You know, you don't necessarily have all the answers, but working through and talking with them and counseling them, and that doesn't mean sit down for an hour on a couch, but it might mean a text message. You know, like them asking questions or Bible verses, and then you might have to turn and ask me or Wes or John or Scott or whatever, somebody else in the church for direction. I meant John White. It's still stuck in my head. So,
that's me, I guess.
He was promoted to pastor.
Well,
one of the things I want to see discipleship happen this year with the teenagers especially is urgency for the gospel. Urgency for lost people needing to know who Jesus is, and they have a burden, they have a responsibility, they have to feed the sheep of Jesus, and that's believers. So challenges students to go out in their faith and share the gospel with their lost friends, family, co-workers. And then my goal in discipling you guys, two things. One is to care for you guys. And so I'd like to open it to you guys. One, anytime you need an email, text, call, please let me know. Anytime you guys want to do breakfast, lunch, dinner, you need to sit down and just have a conversation, please let me know. That's one of my roles in your life. But I also want to challenge you guys to step up to the plate in 3 areas specifically. It's the, one area, but it has like 3 things. I really want the small group thing to grow. And so like you have your kids, like we look at Jesus, he had 12 disciples, they were his people. Yes, he spent time with like 3,000 preaching to them, but then he would get alone with the 12 and he would know what was going on in their life, and he would challenge and he'd push and that kind of thing. And so you guys are like my 12, and then all the youth are like your 12s. And so just getting in their lives, pushing them, and then trying to provide events. I'm not saying any regularity or anything like that. When I say an event, time spent with teenagers based on fellowship, discussion around the Word of God, and prayer. Those 3 things. Spending time with them could be a basketball game. You're sitting watching them play basketball. I know like your wife goes to track. Aaron Huntoon does the same kind of thing. there's fellowship, time around the Word of God. You know, that could just be having a discussion over dinner, and prayer. Just again, getting in their lives, asking what's going on, how they need your help. And I would say, not that this is the best thing in the whole entire world, but I think that this little like gauge system, meter, whatever, would be a good thing to do with your teenagers. Is, you know, where's your relationship with Jesus? And you could, I mean, I just put prayer, scripture, worship, reflection, but you could blow that out and have a conversation about that with them, so they can put their little number and you say, okay, why'd you put a 7? Why'd you put a 4? Why'd you put a 2? Is it prayer? Is it reading? What can we do? How are you with your family? Because they're teenagers. They have parents, or they have step parents, or they have step brothers and sisters, and real brothers and sisters, and all that gets a mess. So how is all that going? And then ministry, for those who are mature in their faith. Like, if these things are good, how are you doing ministry? What's going on in your life that you're sharing the gospel with people? And I think that would be a good basis of getting along with teenagers or in a group. You know, I want to start the #adulting is going to start in September to really help the seniors transition into young adult life. Really based around that and hard questions, hard life situations, and really working through what's going on in their heart. And so I'd like to see you guys step up and do that as much as possible. And that's why when I say, you know, are you a leader or are you an assistant? It's really because my leaders I want to see step up and really own a ministry. Not to like tout John's horn, but like he stepped up years ago and just leads worship. I don't ever think about worship. Like randomly he texts me like, oh, Idalis is leading today, or something like that. But I'm like, great, didn't even think about it. Glad, you know, like. But that's something he's picked up and ran with, and it's been a really big blessing to help the ministry. And so if there's an area you can like do that, or you want to be an assistant, you want to step back, or you want to step out. This is kind of the time to think about that as we plan into the summer and we plan into September. So that's what I got. Any questions? Yes.
So what I've heard from some of the kids and some of the parents is that they see Wednesday as like more of an outreach and Sunday as more for like church kids. So that's a part of the reason why a lot of kids that are normal kids don't come on Wednesday.
That's true.
Right.
And because there's not adult and like everything on one night.
Right. And I would say the best you can, you guys are grassroots evangelists for Rock Youth and what it is. I mean, you know what Wednesday nights are. And yeah, they are. It is the most outreach oriented. And so those church kids should be outreaching.
Right.
So they think like they don't.
Right.
They'd rather come to Sunday school than Wednesday.
But if you've listened, I mean, you guys are leaders and you've been annoyed with the topics we've been handling, they haven't necessarily been outreach. They've been Christian living.
Right.
And it's also the night for them to put their faith in action. Like if they don't care about outreach, they might not understand the gospel.
Right, and so I think it's just education, you know, the best you can when you run into those situations, just representing the best you can. Well, this is what it really is. If you'd like to come check it out, we'd love to have your kids, because I want to see it grow, not numerically, I want to see it grow spiritually. And I think right now we're kind of in this lull, plateau. Yeah, you gotta say something.
So just to reiterate, like, don't feel bad if you need to check, like, assistant. You're never going to be called an assistant. We don't actually use those titles.
It's more just a
the kids will
commitment.
never know. Like, it's really just what can we expect from you kind of thing. And then to just go even beyond this, I would encourage you to take a look at that board. He wouldn't ask for this, but take a look at that Rock Youth bubble and the thing that branches off of it. And if there are things that you're like, this is totally like my gifting in like just from the Lord, have a conversation about how you could help, because I know that's a blessing when somebody says this is who I am and can kind of help pick it up.
Because I hope this grows to the point where there's somebody else in this role right now, just so you guys know. I want to be here overseeing all of this, and we're heading that direction. Not that I'm leaving or anything like that or anytime soon, but I want to see it grow to where the ministry is large enough that there's somebody here, and maybe this even gets split into two, middle and high school eventually, so that it's, again, growing for the kingdom, not for our numbers. There's a lot of dreams that I'd like to see happen, but we gotta go step by step. Yes?
Is it bad for us to, like, if we see somebody that might potentially be a good youth leader, to go talk to them about it?
Right? Yeah.
Please do.
Please.
I mean,
So the
That's,
answer would be
that's
no
how,
to
that's
your
how,
question.
that's how this guy and his wife are here. Cause Dustin and Haley thought that you guys would enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 3 or 4 people that I know of right now, and I, you know, like Robert and stuff.
I think that's how Riley's here. I think that's how Erin's here. She got pushed into it or something like that.
I just think that we need to
Oh,
be
no.
kind
She
of.
was totally okay. So you know why I'm here is because so one night Dave Bustle texted me because he needed me to do bus, and I was like nah, and God was like yeah, and I was like no, and then I went to Walmart and saw one of my bus girls, and I was like okay Lord, I'll go, and then I had nothing to do, so I sat in here, and then I was like shadowed with you, and then got bumped up, so that was like the Lord was like.
I just think we kind of need to be talking to more people. We need more leaders.
Yeah, and,
Well-
well, you
More
guys
help.
feel the need because you guys might be getting burnt out because there's a lot of work to carry and not necessarily a lot of
Burned out.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. And that's why I want to talk about your personal health. And so, please reach out to me. Please let me know. Even though I like to show you all of this and the weight that it is, don't ever say, "Oh, Brian's too busy." No, like then ministry's not actually happening. You guys are my primary number one focus, and all of this can go away for me if this is gonna die. Okay.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That was a real like emphasis
Actually, I did.
right there.
Okay.
But only because my wife wasn't here and I needed her eyes on it to see.
I'm disappointed for you. What does it say in the green? I can't read it.
Early summer, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 10 through 12, and 12. So,
Where do you attribute the numbers for like camps going up in this, I guess?
That's
it's a
when you
very
get-
easy event to invite your friends to. It's
Okay.
a fun
So it's not a
thing.
committed thing, it's just something that's fun.
We see about a 25 to 35% visitor rate. I guess like that's about how when we go to camp, that's how many are visitors. Like
I
first
think
time.
it's also when we get intentional too, because that's the time that you're like, are you coming to this? Are you coming to this? Are you coming to this? And if we could do that about Wednesday,
Because you guys are going. If you guys are like planning to come to an event, then you're encouraging kids to come. If you're not going, it's like, hey, are you going to dodgeball? I'm not going though.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
are
you
you?
go.
And that's a different.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
different understanding. So.
It's also a one-time commitment.
Right.
Even if it's a week, they
Very-
more than likely are only missing 5 days out of their life. You know,
Yep.
so like it's a little more difficult. You were saying sports practices and stuff, but
Yeah.
again, priorities. That's usually how you challenge them.
well, and like use those. So like
Right.
if you have a kid that can't come for sports, make that your event for your small group. Take all your small group kids to go watch that person play sports. Hang out after.
Make shirts.
You know?
Canner bellies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's money in the budget that doesn't get spent for you guys to do that.
For
kind
body
of
paint.
stuff. For body paint. Or for ice cream.
Running that is in my house.
That's not
As long as I don't have to see pictures of it, I'm good.
There's a social media section right there. No?
I don't follow anybody but Church Ministries.
Right. Aren't you gonna post these pictures on social media?
None of you
I will-
body painted. All right. Somebody want to close us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time to gather together. I thank you for the reflection time. Thank you for the leadership of Rock Youth. And Lord, I pray that you're burdening each one of our hearts and guiding us, and that we're seeking you out, asking you where you should have us, where you're leading us in ministry. I pray that we would have a heart for these kids, and that you would just ignite that flame if it is burning on embers. I thank you for this night. I thank you for the kids that are out there I pray that they had a good message and that it sinks in. And I pray that this opportunity would be for us to go out and ask them what was taught, and that can spark some conversation. Lord, go with us this week, and I ask all these things in your name. Amen.